Okay. So I do want to neaten up these draw methods and these three classes in general, grid, length and angle snap. I want to have a clearer idea about the information I'm dealing with when I do these little bits of work for them in the get nearest and draw methods. But I think I'm just going to move on to angle snap draw first. There may be other things that I want, pieces of information I want to track, and I might get a better idea of what I can just make constant, make sort of global bits of space. They get called globals in this language. Really, I suppose they are globals. These globals inside Snap, I don't know what you'd call them, like static members of a class in C++ or something. So they're not associated with an instance, they're just there, and I would access them through snap.numlines from outside Snap or one of its extensions, or one of the classes that extend it, I should say. I think extensions are a separate thing. But anyway, these spaces, yeah, they're globals, but they're also contained inside Snap. So I don't feel too bad about them hanging out in here. I like, and I'm probably wrong to do this, but I like using classes as little bits of space. Like little places where I can do my own unstructured stuff. It's not very well behaved, is it? But so anyway, I want to make this little set of information sensible for all the things that these three classes do, and that means finishing off this basically. And again, I've basically no idea what I'm doing, but it's going to be something similar to this. No, to this. If my mouse wheel worked, makes it very confusing. But a little bit different. I wonder if I'll need the origin. Yes, I will, because I'll still need to do the same thing. No, I don't actually. It's probably different, because the angle size doesn't change with the scale of the matrix that's passed in. The angle size stays the same, but it may rotate. It really may rotate, and that means that I probably do have to do something. It's slightly annoying because in the case of my editor it'll never rotate, but I've already built these things to do well, slightly more than what my editor would do. So I think I do need to basically do something similar here, where I get a vector that kind of describes, in this case it's the size vector, kind of describes the element of the matrix that I need to apply. In this case it's the size, in this case it's going to be the angle. But some things will still be the same, so I will transform the origin. Always forgetting dots. Transform vector origin, origin transformed. Then, what is it I did here? Right, yeah, so this time I'm not going to set v to be size. This is just a little vector, a temporary vector. I'm going to set it to be 1.0, 0, 0. So that's a vector that just runs along the x-axis. Now I'm going to transform that vector. That vector would be at angle 0. Transform vector v, v transformed. No, I don't want to put it into v transformed, do I? Could I put it into size transformed? Really, I'm getting the angle anyway. Okay. Actually, all I need to do is say local angle float equals v transformed angle radians. Is that correct? Oh, yeah. Okay, well, it'll do for now. So what else did I transform up here? The center, yeah, need to do that as well. transform vector c, no, center, comma ct. Okay, ct now holds the center of this angle snap guide as it'll appear on the screen. Now, I don't think I'm going to do anything with the sides in here. Where do I do things with the sides? Yeah, no, not here. Do I use them in here at all? It's like I need the position in here, I need the sides in the grid snap. This is probably not too wise, is it? Like I don't use the position at all. No, I don't use the sides at all, I use the position. Where do I use the position? Yeah, there, where I find the difference. Which I'm going to do here as well. I might do it slightly differently. I'll say diff set pause diff subtract center transformed. Does that make it more clear or less clear? I'm doing the same thing as that. It's just in two little methods. So now I'm just, again, sorry for pausing and thinking, because here I'm using angle to determine the angle from the center to the position, and here I'm using angle to determine the actual angle of the entire guide. With length snap, the angle of the guide never comes into it. This ends up being the angle of the guide. And I shouldn't get bogged down in thinking about this, but so the angle guide will work at multiple angles. Gosh, no man, it's really not as easy as I think it is. It never is, because actually this matrix that gets passed in, nah, this is in the same frame of reference as this matrix. This is where I start to get really confused. Like, let's say that matrix also had a scale on it as well as an angle. Suddenly this doesn't make so much sense. This is in screen space. Yeah, I don't need... No, I don't need to find this angle, do I? When I think about it again, do I really need to find that angle? Because this is in screen space, and this is to make the constraint into screen space. No, I don't. I really don't, do I? I don't, so I'm not going to. I'm going to I actually got it wrong anyway, didn't I? Gosh. And then after, like, I can't do it in that order. I did it wrong anyway. I actually have to say that subtract origin transform if I wanted to get it right. No, I don't. Oh, man. Talk about getting confused. Doesn't matter anyway, I don't think, because I'm not going to do it initially. I changed my mind about doing it at all, really. Sorry, you have to, whoever, right, this is me basically in the future, sorry me in the future for having to put up with this indecision, but you know yourself. Okay, so I'm not going to do that just now. I'm not going to bother at all yet, or the origin. All I'm going to do is transform the center, figure out the difference, then say angle float equals diff angle radians, and local. The distance is not significant anymore, is it? The distance between the center of this constraint and the point I'm feeding in when drawing it is irrelevant. The only thing that's relevant is the angle from the constraint to the point. Oh gosh. I have a funny feeling I'm in deep trouble here. And I have a funny feeling it's because I'm doing things in the wrong order, as almost always. Sorry, I'm just going to have to go over it again, yet again in my mind. I perform this. I'm back in the length snap here because this is the one that I've actually written. I perform this this transformation. I perform it prior to generating this sort of, by drawing these points, by working my way along the sort of the ruler and drawing each indicator individually. But when I go over it again in my mind, yet again, and think about it, I think, if I didn't pass in a matrix, I did pass in a position, a color, sides, and a position. And actually what this generated was like an array. I wouldn't even need a color, need a position and sides. The position for what the what the constraint has to focus on, and the sides to know, although I'm not using it in here, the sides could constrain it so that it wasn't drawing on. My mic switched off there for a while, I don't know how long. What I was saying was, an alternative to doing it, this generate a set of points that get figure out those points in world space, and then the screen matrix puts it back into screen space. Now, the reason that that kind of might make more sense to do, or it's not that or I could still pass in the matrix and still pass in the position, but have it that the position is assumed to be in world space. So before I call this method, I get the world space position of the pointer. Then I do all this, but instead of drawing lines in this way, I generate an array of the lines with this bit. Then I run all those lines through this matrix, and I draw them then. Or, point by point, yeah, not easy. Or point by point, as I'm drawing them, I'm running them through this matrix. The reason being, then this matrix could be all sorts of strange shapes. It could be you know, scaled in different directions and scaled differently in x and y, rotated. It could also sort of be the child of another matrix which was scaled and rotated, so that this matrix ended up being skewed. And if this matrix was a strange shape, I'm pretty sure that the way I'm figuring this out just now, these would not appear correctly on it. But if I figured these out in world space and then transformed them into screen space, they would appear correctly. I hate having to come back to this and say, oh, sorry, you thought it worked, but it didn't. But I think I'm going to have to. I think I'm going to have to. Transformations, and then down here transform the step and notch vector after the fact. The step, notch and cursor vector after the fact, and then still just use this same loop of the cursor, the notch and the step. In fact, I think that's the way I'm going to do it. That makes more sense. It means I don't have to generate the array. It means I don't have to recalculate a load of points. I'm actually only taking these three vectors through the matrix. If that was the way, then I would say this is in world space. There's no point transforming the origin. There's no point refiguring the size of the length, snap value. This would become, and I'll call it length t for no, just so that it fits with the rest of the thing. This is just size length. No, it's not, it's just size. Sorry. Is this really working? Yeah, diff does still get set to pos x just minus center x, because now pos x is taken to be in world space, center y. Distance and angle are still based on diff, but diff is now different. Step value is the cosine of the angle times the length. Okay, and all this is the same, notch v and cursor v. And so now the thing that's annoying is having a bunch more bloody variables. You know what would be great is if I didn't do it like this. What would save me is if I had transform vector with a single. It really would. It would save me a lot of trouble, and in fact I'm going to have to do it. Arg. Void g vector equals, and again I'm going to stop doing that, And I'm not going to do it here either, because this now, these two things need to be distinguished between each other. This one probably needs a different name, like transform and store vector, or transform vector 2. But this one will need 2 parameters, and this one will need 1, because I'm going to give them the same name for now. This is just another thing which I may as well chalk up to future, future misery can be put down to this. But now here's where I think, do I want to just use? I've got a temporary float, temporary v float, a bunch of temporary stuff, but nothing that's very useful to me. I think I'll make a tvec. Temporary array of floats. That's the current matrix, the main matrix. Okay. Right, I'm not going to try and remember what I'm doing there. Temporary vector. G vector equals new G vector. I know this is bad practice. It's like it means what I've got to do is like be really careful when calling one method in this class from another method in this class. But mainly I just try to, like, here's obviously, like, I'm inside here I'm calling 2 methods inside the class, but I'm not well, what am I trying to say about that? I just think I'm just taking care about it. I know it's not great. Anyway, so what I say here is temporary vector x equals something, temporary vector y equals something, then x equals temporary vector x, and vec x equals temporary vector x, and vec y equals temporary vector y, and what x equals is the x part of this, and what y equals is the y part of this. So it is vec Okay. Now I think that this, because I've taken out these little null things, I think this should be safe enough to add. Probably not. I'm probably not seeing why it's not, but I'm going to do it anyway. And what it allows me to do is say m transform vector. I've got it called transform vector. It does help distinguish the two things, but it does make it wrong. Transform vector, just with one thing, and it's going to be step v. And it's going to be m. Where the hell am I here? Length snap. Yeah, okay. M transform vector notch vector. M transform curse. Boy. So that's a different way around. This is still okay. It's been done in world space. Right? Distance is the length of the center to the position. Length t is size. Right, okay. If I'm right about this, that's totally pointless. Size, 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 length t, stop existing please. Where else is size? Where else is length t? Okay, well, I hate that, really. In here I don't use pause, do I? I don't, and that's fine. It doesn't need pause, the grid, just like length snap and angle snap probably aren't going to need sides. It would be wiser if I used them, though, let's face it. Now, okay, yeah, I get angle. I use angle a lot. Distance and angle. That, not required either. I don't use transform center. I figure it all out in world space, then I transform the important things into screen space. Gosh, I've really gone round in circles with this, and I can only apologise. I wonder what's going to happen if I run it. Probably it's going to crash, isn't it? Well, no spelling errors. It's a bonus. Yeah, I got dragged off on this tangent of remaking the thing I'd already made. I don't feel bad about it. I think it's wiser, and I think that it does make it more flexible because... What? Weren't you linking a second ago? Excuse me? It says running. But it's not running. It says compiling. Building cancelled. Oops. Okay, guess I just start again. I think this is better. I think that the... Hold my breath. Okay, well it ran. Length is on. Okay, look at that craziness. Everything is totally wrong. And what happens when I grab two? Hey, two real close together. Two different ones. Okay. Wow. Difference is the direction from the center to the position. Distance is difference length. Angle is the angle of the difference in radians. Step value cosine of the angle, sine of the angle, size. Notch value. Oh, I am not transforming the mouse pointer. Let me see. Did I decide to have a transformed mouse pointer? Yeah, mouse screen, mouse one. Okay, mouse world. I already did it. And I'm already doing it. I just have to get to here. Put it in the world mouse. World. I still don't think this is going to work actually, based on what I just saw. But it's another start. I am going to call it a video soon. I am getting a bit worn down by this. Okay, no, still unbelievably wrong. And there's no, I see no real rhyme or reason to it. Let's have another quick look. So, mouse in world X. It's IX. Inverse of X. X takes me from the world to the screen. The inverse of X takes me from the screen to the world. Again, you know, if I had the guts to type out long variable names, this would be easier. I still don't think this is going to work based on it. No. Absolutely, totally wrong. It made almost no difference. Oh, look at that. Wow. Check me out. Why is that? IX takes me from screen to the world. X takes me from the world to the screen. And that's right. I'm telling it how to take. And it was working before, to take from the world to the screen. Now, obviously there's something I'm not getting right here. Where do I set cursor? Ah, that's a bit of a start, because I'm not using the transform center anymore. I'm using the original center. Okay, center x minus notch xy, notch x, notch vx, notch vy, both times 0.5. Right, just going to give it another go. Still pretty skeptical of that. Let's see what that's done anyway. Okay, well, something. Hey, look at that. Okay, that's wild. Right, something's well wrong. Notch vector. Cosine of angle times notch length. Sine of angle plus 90 times notch length. Size. N. Transform vector cursor. Okay, right, this is totally wrong, obviously. The cursor needs to go. God damn, where does the cursor need to go? Yeah, well, actually, nah. No, that is right, isn't it? Center x plus notch x, center y plus notch y. Well, a little half of minus notch y. Oh, let me concentrate. In fact, I don't think I'm going to be able to concentrate just now. I think I'm going to have to call it, because that's 32 minutes. I'm going to come back and I'm going to sort this out again. I do half wish I hadn't started thinking about this, but I need to. Let me look at it one more time before I stop. Pause x center minus pause x minus center x, pause y minus center y. I'm just sure that's right. Untransformed, or the world position of the mouse relative to the world position of the center. Get that distance, get that angle. The step is the angle and the sine times the size in world space. The notch that is now also in world space. Gosh darn it. I don't want the notch length. Ugh, that's such an annoying thing. So if the notch length, but it shouldn't, I mean, that's not the thing that's causing a massive problem, it's just one of those flaming annoyances. Like that means that the notch has changed size as I zoom in and out. Okay, I'm going to run that again. Every time there's more confusion than I expect there to be, and I think I'm making it better. I'm just introducing more confusion. But what I'm curious about is this. How different do they look when I zoom in and out? Not different at all. They both just shoot off. And I can't remember how it was I saw a break in them before. But, you don't even seem to be moving at all now. Oh, yeah, they're slightly moving. Right. I am going to call that a day. That was pretty unsatisfying. I started out hoping I was going to achieve something and ended up having to go back and look at what I was doing before. Not ideal. Next time, more good will happen.